Hi, I'm the multifarious fisherman. This is 7 Fish. We're in office today. We're going to talk about your first bait cast combo. Coincidentally, we're also going to be reviewing the Lew's Mach Smash. It's going to be a two-parter. I will give you a timestamp if you want to jump ahead to the rod and reel review. I know Z did a how to throw a bait caster video already, but I think it's time to go back to it. Plus, new rod reel combo. It's priced pretty decent. It's a $129 combo. Not a bad choice for a first. This is by no means my first time throwing a bait caster, but I want to show you some tricks that I have learned to teach people who are starting out to make their journey easier with a bait cast reel. The first of those is what line to use. I throw all different kinds of line on a bait cast reel, and certainly it works with fire line, it works with braid, it works with fluorocarbon, and it'll work with monofilament too. But I'm going to suggest to you that when you're first starting to throw a bait caster, you spool it with monofilament. This is Trilene XT. It is a stiffer monofilament that is quite tough. It's very abrasion resistant, so it's a good line for running around cover. The geese have babies and they are just making a lot of noise. The reason that I encourage guys to start out with monofilament is because mono is, number one, inexpensive, and number two, stiffer. When you backlash a reel, a bait cast style reel, which you will do when you're first learning, it's not uncommon, it's something that everybody goes through, but you get through it pretty quick and you get on to fishing and enjoying it. It's a great tool to add to your arsenal. When you do backlash with braid, a lot of times that braid will really get stuck once you backlash it. They can really get in there tight and be difficult to pick backlashes out of. Once you're to the point where you don't backlash very often, you're willing to put up with that and it's okay. But when you're starting out, especially if the backlashes are real bad, braid can be very difficult, and you don't want to make it difficult on yourself when you first start. So this is less likely to backlash badly, and worst case scenario, you pile it up really bad. If you got to cut this out, you're cutting maybe $3 worth of line out of your reel. If you're throwing braid, you might have anywhere from $13 to $20 worth of line in your reel. And if you got to cut that out, it hurts a little more. We're going to spool this right here on the water. I get asked with some regularity what the best way to spool a new reel is, and there's different answers to that based on what kind of reel you're throwing, but a spooling machine is best, but most people don't have access to one, so I'm going to show you kind of a handy way to do it if you're around a body of water, or even if you're at home. I'm going to San Diego jam this. A lot of guys just use a basic arbor knot, and there's nothing wrong with that. It is not a particularly strong knot, but you're never going to get down to it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So what I'm going to do to start spooling this is I'm going to drop this spool of line in the water. At home you could use a 5-gallon bucket full of water. I'm going to let the spool ride right in the water as I spool this onto my reel. There, and that's done relatively quickly. I'm just going to tie something on here. I'm going to use my pocket knife. Not what I would encourage you to throw, but I'm not going to use a lure because I don't want to put hooks in something, because I'm not going to throw in the water right now. So this is quite a bit heavier than a lure that I would normally be throwing, but I'm just going to give you an idea on how to set this. On this side of your reel, you have a casting brake adjustment. I'm going to encourage you to turn that halfway between the maximum and the minimum. Some are numbered, some aren't, but roughly halfway, and forget that this exists for now, because we're not going to deal with that right at the moment. If your reel doesn't have one over there, don't worry about it. On this side, you have a big star. That star is your drag. That adjusts how much tension it takes to pull for a fish to pull the line out of your reel. I'm going to reel my lure to within a couple inches of my rod tip. I don't know if you can see that or not. There it is. I'm going to turn this control quite tight. And then when I push the button, it still falls like crazy because this is way too heavy of a device to be on this rod. I'm gonna have to get something else. You know what happens when you tie your pocket knife to fishing line and then you need to cut your pocket knife off the fishing line? Didn't think that through. Since this is my first baitcaster video, I'm going to talk about tying a Palomar knot. If you don't know the Palomar knot, you need to learn it, because you can tie that in braid, you can tie it in fluoro, and you're going to tie it, and you're going to be able to tie it in mono. And chances are, down the road, you'll end up spooled with all three of those at some point or another, because they all do certain things pretty well. So I didn't show you the Palomar knot. I have a Palomar knot video. I can put a card up that will show you what your Palomar knot's going to look like, but suffice to say, that's the knot to learn now that you're starting to learn new stuff. Bullet weight, close to the rod tip, turn very tight, push the button, nothing happens. It's not dropping at all. I'm going to slowly back this off. I'm going to try to turn it so you can see the spool. I got a couple of loops off, but not too bad. When I'm pushing that button, my weight is falling in a controlled fashion, hitting the ground, and I'm not spooling any extra loops off. That's how I want it set. If you're learning your baitcaster for the first time, don't go to a lake, go to your backyard, throw it around a little bit, because what will happen if you're at the lake and you're throwing your baitcaster for the first time and you backlash it, you'll be picking your backlash, your buddy is going to be catching fish, and you're going to really not care for this baitcast reel. But if you're in the backyard and you pile your baitcaster up, you got a big old backlash, and you're like, well, I can pick this backlash or I can rake those leaves, doesn't seem like such a bad thing. So I encourage you to learn it in the backyard. Pick a target, pick the base of a tree, pick a trash can lid, try a frisbee, set something out there to aim at. And on your first several casts, I'm going to encourage you to throw sidearm, not over the top. And the reason that you throw sidearm is to train your thumb how early you need to let go. If you're accustomed to throwing spinning or spin cast reel, your first cast, if you're right-handed, is going to go way left of your target. If you're left-handed, it'll go way right of your target, because you're letting go too late. You've got a spool full of line and all that weight, and you go to throw it, the weight of that lure has to start your spool turning, and it takes a second to get to speed. If you start by coming over the top, instead of missing left, it's going to pull, and it's going to cause that lure to start traveling downward. And it'll hit the ground going really fast. The ground will stop it, but it won't stop your spool, and your spool will blow up. By throwing sidearm, you'll miss to the left, you won't have a big backlash to pick out, you reel it back up. Stay same target, let go slightly earlier. Just keep doing that until you're consistently going to the target. Once you've trained your thumb, this is how early you gotta let go to go where I want. Now you can come over the top and have a lot less problem. Once you've learned that, you're ready to go to the lake. Okay, so there's a little bit of a backlash. What we're gonna do, we're gonna put our thumb on here lightly, and we're gonna pull line out of that reel. And if it doesn't really get stuck, we're just gonna keep going. If it gets real stuck, then we will work on it. There's a point where it got stuck. It's caught under one loop there because of this. So I'm going to grab that piece there and pull it out. And now it's pulling out again. I got one more loop in there. There it went. And now I'll pinch that line and reel it back up under some tension. It's kind of wrapped around me because of the wind. So why did that happen? Did that happen because this reel's no good? Not at all. What happened is I'm throwing a lighter bait into the wind. So the wind is stopping that lure, and it's not doing anything to my reel. So I'm letting a little too much line out. What I will do is test my deal. Now, according to this, it's set tight enough because that's not falling because I went to a lighter lure. When you set that, you don't have a number or anything to indicate where your setting is on this. So if you change it, it's not easy to go back. Remember this thing I told you to forget about? Well, it does the same thing that this does, but it uses magnets instead of friction. This magnetic drag, I can turn up and easily turn back. Since I'm throwing into the wind, I'm going to turn it up temporarily and then put it right back where I had it as soon as we get that wind out of our face. No backlash. Now I'm going to turn and cast with the wind. I'm going to get a little help. I'm actually going to turn this down a bit to be able to throw farther. Now that we've gone through that portion of the video, we're going to go ahead and experiment with this little rod and reel combo. I'm kind of excited. I've got everything set up for the weight of lure that I'm throwing now. Off we go. First cast fish, not a big one, but I'll take it. We're still springish, still very much springish. That's a little fatty. Nothing to be proud of, nothing to be ashamed of, but first cast fish, I don't know if that's on the rod and reel or not, but well, it's got enough backbone to set a hook, and it's got enough kind of flex to keep a fish pinned. I don't know how it's going to be with soft plastics. I don't know if it's got enough backbone for really pounding a hook, but tell you what, it's putting it out there pretty far. I'm impressed. What I'm throwing isn't super heavy. Rod really loads nicely. Another dink. Chunk, but a dink. There's a lot of weed growth out there. They're healthy, they're fat, just not very big. Okay, so we moved through the area quickly with a fast moving bait. We're gonna switch tactics, slow down a little bit, partly to just get an idea for throwing something different. Switching from a inline spinner bait, which a lot of people don't throw, but they're missing the boat, to a safety pin style spinner bait, which should also work. Like we were doing, I'm gonna check my little heavier, spooled a little extra off. I'll show you. Had a couple of wraps, nothing I'm afraid of, so we'll leave it set the same for now. I can tell throwing it, it's a little softer than what I'm accustomed to throwing the rod. The reel's doing fine. And softer isn't a negative, it's just an observation. We're gonna move and try another bait. Aquatic vegetation. This leafy stuff is curly pondweed. It's invasive here, but it's also really good fish cover. So if you're fishing and it's around, don't cuss it, fish it. Well, that's a square bill a little bit. I keep changing. So now we're throwing a jerk bait, something I would normally probably throw on a spinning because it's not very heavy. It's going to force me to run in lighter settings on my bait caster than I would normally want to. First cast, not bad though. I'm going to get a jig out there for the fun of it. Okay, we're going to go with a technique I like to call dancing with the girl you brought. We caught 2 fish on spinner right off the bat. We're going to put that back on, fish a little bit. train. I was off camera, but that cast went a long ways. Sorry to interrupt your footage of a spawning bed bass, but I just cast to a deep structure and picked up this little fatty. Not a bad way to end the old review of the lose smash combo. Fought real good, got a good jump out of her. Sorry that wasn't on camera. I was trying to get some nice footage of that spawning bed bass behind me. We'll make a couple more casts and then send you back out to YouTube searching other stuff. Tell you what, I was talking about the rod being on the soft side, but God, it'll wing it out there. And I did have that nicer fish jump and stayed pinned. So to conclude, theme of the video, kind of my first baitcaster / Mach smash review. I would tell you that it is probably a really good choice for that purpose. It does a lot of things well. Let's do pros and cons. First of all, cons. The rod is a little bit on the soft side. I'm not sure it would be your best bet if you were mainly wanting to fish jigs and plastic worms, something where you needed a monster hook set, because I'm not sure this is the rod for that. Also on the rod side, I did find that it was maybe not quite as accurate a casting as a rod that I would be more accustomed to. However, this price point of rod and what this rod is trying to do, it does an admirable job. Pros. I could throw this thing a mile. I was surprised. It was as competitive with anything I'm throwing right now, which surprised me, to be frank. I'm not throwing a ton of weight, and boy, she'd rocket it out there. And I'm running mono, stiff mono. Color, well, that's a mixed issue. Guys with my hair color, probably not their first choice. They tend to like the more traditional stuff. Guys, Bugs and Z's age, you know, maybe more up their alley. Birdie told me that left-handed hunter's not a big fan. I kind of like it. I kind of don't mind it. I'm getting a little tired of seeing acid green and bright yellow and stuff like that. That red's a little bit better. The Lose Pro TI that I did a review on with the purple accents, I like that better, but it's $350 reel. I like fishing it better too, but I will tell you this. If you're gonna drop $130, under $150, you really, I don't know that you could make a better choice. Very functional reel. Put fish in the boat for me today. Well, we weren't in a boat, but like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. Thanks for visiting. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you come see us for more videos. If you subscribe, that will be easy. If you don't, just look for 7Fish. We're always here. If you're interested to get this, leave me a comment below. Let me know. If you buy it and like it, leave me a comment below. If you buy it and don't like it, leave me a comment below. If you're not going to buy it, leave me a comment below. That feels slimy.
Well, you have a good day, bud.
You too, man. Thank you.